Hello, hello. Welcome to the Enquiry podcast. This is a show that helps you to influence your reality to the greatest capacity in order to be able to use your life as the medicine that it is, to be able to know how to read the signposts and follow the breadcrumbs in order to express the fullness of who you are and what you're actually here for. I'm your host, Nerida Mills. I am a master psychosomatic practitioner, coach and facilitator, and it is my absolute pleasure to have you here. Welcome on board and let's get started. Welcome back to the Enquiry podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about something that kind of wraps all of this in together. So when I was looking at and exploring and kind of discovering, for lack of a better word, life as medicine as a concept, some of the things that were coming up for me personally was the lack of integration in the current model of growth that we see. And it's something that I talk a lot about in regards to, it's all good and well to go into the seminars, to go into the ceremonies, to go into experiences of transformation and have these insights. But if we do nothing with these insights, then it really is, it can be actually worse for you than if you don't do anything. Because when you have the awareness and you're not living the truth of the awareness, the pain that comes with that is profound. So it really is, we have to look at the integration in and of itself is some of the most potent parts of this medicine. Like, yes, awareness is 95% of the journey. I agree with that, because if you don't have the awareness, there's nothing to be done. However, if you do nothing with the awareness, then the 95% is just compounding more pain onto the situation. So integration is absolutely paramount. So if we look at this from a standpoint of life as medicine, what are we actually integrating? So I was exploring this and developed a model of learning and growth within it. It's called the integrated living model. And it really looks at personal mastery, relationship mastery, and purposeful mastery. And because these are the areas that really, if we look at any area of growth, it comes back to one of these areas, right? So, how are you relating to yourself? Obviously comes under the personal mastery. How do you relate to your health? How are you communicating to yourself? How are you perceiving the world around you? All of these things come under this personal mastery pillar. Whereas, how we relate to others, the expression of ourselves outward, relationship to another human being, relationship to money, relationship to my career, relationship to, the world in the sense of politics and our belief sets and things like that, all comes under relationship mastery. And then, purposeful mastery is really about how I then take all of that awareness and bundle it up in such a way that I am able to express all of myself for the sake of expression out into the world and add some value. So that's really where the purposeful mastery comes in. And the reason that I'm telling you this is because there are some basic principles that I think really go across all of these pillars, and they go across any form of integration as far as life as medicine. Like you kind of have to hold these as philosophies to be able to really optimize the work that you do as far as integrating things into your life. Now, what is integration to start with? So integration, in my opinion, is when you are a living example of that which you understand, or a living example of that which you believe. So I'm integrating my awareness around who I want to be as a parent, for example, by showing up as that parent, by acknowledging when I have fucked up, by communicating effectively the truth of that experience for myself, and by making sure that my actions really do reflect the type of parent that I want to be. If I'm aware of who I want to be, but I'm not showing up as that, I'm not integrated. So this is why life is beautiful medicine, because it is the pathway for integration. So we really want to bring that integration into our everyday. Now, some of the philosophies I want to just kind of touch on briefly here, and I want to unpack over the next couple of episodes. The first one is that, in order to be fully seen, you need to be willing to be completely invisible. Now, if you haven't watched my TED Talk about this, I've got a whole TED Talk about it. I can certainly add the link below the show notes and make that available for you guys. But, the principle of being willing to be completely invisible is so powerful because if you want to be seen or are trying to be seen in a certain light in any way, shape, or form, then what I'm doing is I am altering my behavior so that you perceive me, or so that I perceive that you perceive me in a way that I want you to, right? So it's very convoluted and it gets very messy very quickly, which is why we need to just drop it completely. Because there are no ways in which, if I'm showing up in a way that I need you to perceive me in a certain way, there's no way that I can possibly be my authentic self, because I've got to contort myself. I've got to change who I am. I've got to, even if it's slight, like even if it's the most minute change, it's still a change from your authentic expression. And we're going to be a lot less inclined to say the thing that's on our lips, to do the thing that is in our heart's desire when we're living life based on trying to be something for somebody else in any capacity whatsoever. And that kind of leads me to the next point. The next point is living life in ceremony. So if we look at ceremonial spaces, some of the commonalities between a ceremonial space is that, when you go into the space, you go into the space with reverence. You acknowledge the sacredness of the experience. You also acknowledge the perfection of whatever happens in that space. So, for example, if you're in a ceremony and somebody's crying or laughing, whatever it is, they're not wrong in that. Even if that triggers you, we're really guided to hold the space that whatever happens in that space is perfect. So if I'm triggered in that space because somebody's laughed, then that trigger is actually showing me what I need to see about my own self to be able to get the most out of the ceremony, right? And so it's so important for the person who A, laughs to actually honor the truth in that, and B, the person who receives the trigger to be able to honor the truth in that. So, ceremony is really a place where all of you is welcome. It's a non-judgmental space, and we're encouraged to really optimize whatever happens for the perfection that it is. Now, it's all good and well to do this in contained spaces, and I encourage you, if you have never done a ceremony before, to go into one in a contained space and be held in that. And I also encourage you to bring the space of ceremony into your life, because life is profoundly sacred and beautiful, and it contains everything that we need. If we were to meet life in the same way, in a non-judgmental space where we can allow for what is true to be true, in a way in which we trust the process of whatever is coming up for us in whatever capacity to be shared, and that's perfect for everybody in the environment, and in such a way where we hold reverence for the beauty and the sacredness of life. What that takes away is this ideology that is prolific in our society that says that life is a struggle, life is hard, I'm here to endure it, and, there's nothing really else that I can do outside of ideally get to my deathbed even faster. There's such a disrespect for the sacredness of life in that. So it removes that away from it. So living as if you were completely invisible and living in a space of ceremony are two of the philosophies that are really quite vital as far as living life as medicine. And then the last one is really about being willing to let go of the noise and optimize what you're doing. So letting go of the noise is a recognition that there is always going to be things pulling your attention away from that which is most vital to you. The mind wants to distract us. It wants to keep us safe. It will do things. It will literally shut down your body. It does this to me all the time. It's quite frustrating. So if I'm moving towards something new, and especially if it's something powerful for me, and and there's like transformation afoot, one of the ways that I know I'm getting close to something is that I'll get really super sleepy. I'll get very tired. I get very lethargic. My body starts really just wanting me to go and have a nap. And the mind will do this in lots of different ways, right? Maybe you just all of a sudden need to go to the toilet. Maybe your to-do list just becomes really overwhelming. And, should you really be spending the time on the stuff that you're spending your time on now? So understanding that the mind's going to want to distract us away from that, which is most important. And we can actually use that as a guide to when we're doing something that is important and be able to bring ourselves back. So they're the three really important philosophies around integrated living and living life as medicine that I really wanted to share today, so that we can go a little bit deeper over the next couple of episodes, but also so that you can kind of start just percolating in your brain around what would that actually look like? What does it look like to live life as if you were completely invisible? What would it look like to not need any form of validation from anybody else, or not need any form of recognition from anybody else? Like, if you didn't need validation or recognition, what would you actually be doing instead of what you're doing now? Or what would you continue to do? It's a very, very potent question. And what would it look like if I was to live life in ceremony? Now, I've spent a lot of time in meditation. I've spent a lot of time in ceremonies. I've spent a lot of time with very, very powerful energetic healers. And it's an incredible space. And to be in a state of ritual with that is very, very powerful. However, there is a shadow side that can come up for people, which is, if I'm not doing X, Y, Z, then I'm not really connecting to spirit, or I'm not really connecting to the divine, or I'm not really connecting to myself. And I disagree. I think you are always connected to spirit. You are always connected to the divine. There is nothing that is not spiritual. So the only difference is the intention that we bring to it. So if you were bringing the intention of reverence, the intention of ceremony into simple things, like how you make your cup of tea, like how you open up the blinds in the morning, like how you say goodbye to your kids when they're going off to school, like how you show up for your work, whatever it is. If you were to bring ceremony into life in that way, what would that look like? So just going to leave that with you to percolate, and we're going to explore them a little bit more in the coming episodes. Very excited to unpack this integrated living model with you over quite a number. It's quite in depth. So over quite a number of episodes, and really get into what does it actually look like to integrate the medicine that this life has for you into your life's expression, into your everyday living, because that's where it counts. All right, gorgeous humans, I look forward to speaking to you soon. Much love. So that's it from us. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I would like to really acknowledge you for spending the time to explore what creates your reality and how you can influence it best. If you have absolutely loved this episode and the ones before it, then I highly encourage that you jump onto my newsletter list. You'll be able to find the details of that in the show notes. You can also follow me on Facebook or Instagram at Nerida Mills. Really, really, really looking forward to speaking with you again soon. If you have any comments, insights, feedback, anything that you would like to share from these episodes, please feel free to email me at info@neridamills.com. Until next time.